Rough weekend for the Warriors. Golden State was blown out by the Lakers on Saturday night, and on Sunday it was announced that Steph Curry will miss at least the next 5 games as he continues to battle that right knee issue. So, Wendy, when should the Warriors consider shutting down Curry completely?
You know, I don't have every piece of information about this injury. I don't think they're going to. I think he might even have tried to play through it more if Jimmy Butler hadn't gotten hurt. He was trying to limp his way through it. And if you look at the standings, what's basically happened is the Warriors have been trapped in the play-in. It's very unlikely they're going to be able to rise out of it. And there's so many tanking teams in the West that they're protected on the bottom end. So the only chance they have is doing anything this season anyway is getting Steph back. So I hate to say it's a luxury because they're in 8th place, but they kind of have the luxury of allowing more time and not hurting them in the standings. Obviously, if he doesn't feel better in a couple of weeks, it's a different situation. But I honestly think that they're just looking at the standings and making a value judgment and holding him out now because it's not going to hurt him.
I agree with you because it's not going to hurt him but so much. And obviously, it's one of those situations where you want to preserve Curry for as much as you possibly can. That I will say, Wendy, you listen. If you're Joe Laker with the money that you spent over the years, you certainly want him there when it counts. You want to get a playoff series. You want to get some extra dough. You want to be relevant for a longer period of time. And this brother is absolutely box office. He's incredible for the brand, not just the Warriors, but overall the NBA. You know, watching the Lakers against the Warriors the other night, the minute you saw that Steph Curry wasn't going to be in the game, you're like, there was a deflation that kicked in because the babyface assassin was not going to be playing. And certainly you want to see him, but in the same breath, you want to give him as much rest as you possibly can while positioning yourself to at least be a participant in the play-in tournament if you can pull that off. That's what you're after right now. That's what they're aiming for, and I don't blame them one bit because you want to do everything you can to preserve him to make sure he's on the court as healthy as he can possibly be, but most importantly, he's on the court. You want him on the court. You don't want him sitting out for the rest of the season and telling folks look forward to next year because you talk about a deflation that will automatically kick in the Bay Area. I mean, he is it. Without him, there really is no reason to pay attention to the Warriors whatsoever.
So the 2022-2023 season was the last time the Warriors were not in the play-in and made the playoffs, and they were the 6th seed then. Like, at some point, are we concerned with what's happening with the Warriors here, that they aren't a top 5 team in the West anymore, considering all the injuries and everything else? Well, Wendy or Stephen?
Because of the injuries, you're not. It's because of the injuries that you're not. If they were not hurt and they were looking like this, just a couple of games above 500, then you would be concerned. But injuries happen, and injuries are going to derail you. What's Milwaukee without Giannis? What would the Knicks be without Brunson? What would Minnesota be without Ant-Man, etc.? When you have injuries, I mean, injuries are a part of the game, and you don't expect your best players to be out and you still be the same. But if they were on the court healthy and you were losing games, that would be an entirely different matter altogether.
Wendy.
Steve Kerr said it best. He said they're a fading dynasty. That's an accurate assessment. It may have felt a little harsh, but it was true. And what you're hoping for is some last gasps of it. And if you're Golden State, you're hoping to get him healthy at the right moment. You're hoping to get Kristaps Porzingis and catch lightning in a bottle. That's just an honest way to look at it.
Yeah, right now Golden State is the 8th seed. Suns are ahead of them. Clippers are behind them by about 2.5 games both ways. We'll see what happens there. See you later, Wendy, Stephen A. I'll see you mañana. Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy your day. Same place, same time tomorrow.
Very bad. They've won 14 out of 18. That's tied for the best record in the East since January 21st. They're outscoring their opponents by nearly 13.5 points a game. That's the best in the NBA during that stretch. So, Wendy, you got to tell me why every Knicks fan that I've got in here is telling me when I come back from my vacation last week how terrible they are, how awful they are. We've got to start talking about Giannis already. And now the actual reality is, with the exception of a few bad nights, the Knicks have been very good this year. Talk to me.
Well, this is going to be probably the Knicks' existence for the next 3 or 4 months. You're going to see them look awesome because their starting lineup especially is a powerhouse, and there are nights when they are great. Look, they've got 10 wins this year by 25 points or more, okay? You got Mikal Bridges, who some nights, like yesterday, looks like Scottie Pippen. Some nights looks like a wallflower. You got 41 double-doubles for Karl Towns, which he had another one yesterday, which leads the NBA. But they're obviously, this is the guy that starts the most fights in New York City, bringing up Cat's name. And so, look, this is a very strong team, including 2 wins now over the Spurs, and a team that can lose to anybody. And so I say, buckle in, choose your side. Is it half empty or half full? I know New Yorkers probably think it's half empty, but this is the way this team is going to be.
I know. I'm usually a person, when it comes to the whole glass half empty, half full thing, I always say I've got like a sip left. But in my particular case, I think this is just a difference. Look, when your coach is Tom Thibodeau, you play every night like it's Game 7 of the finals. The Knicks are now more like a regular NBA team. Some nights they just don't have it. But when the lights come on, I think this is a team that is put together with a chance to make look, they made a deep run. You can't make it much deeper than last year. You go to Game 7 of a conference final. I think this is a team that's ready to do exactly that again.
Yeah, you're describing a veteran team that has kind of had a run, that had a coach that drove them all through the regular season. And this is now a different approach, which is certain nights you're not going to see them dial it up. Certain nights you are. And that's why to me, their ceiling and floor is the widest gap of any of the contenders, because their floor, they can look bad like anybody can when they're really not popping on all cylinders. But when they are, we've seen them take down a lot of really good teams and have comebacks even against good teams. But if you're a Knicks fan, what you're hoping for is, can they get past Detroit? And if they do, if the Spurs are waiting for them, the Knicks would be the favorite in that NBA Finals.
Monica.
Consistency is a secret sauce for both successful teams and successful people, right? Like, that's what it is. And I will admit that I have been critical of this defense and making sure that it's not, just the numbers. But when you look at what they were able to do to the Spurs last night, what they've done over close to a 2-month stretch now in terms of defense, like, that defense has shown up. The thing that bothers them, as I have watched them this season, is when they don't shoot the 3 ball, everything is subject to being under the pressure of not being able to connect from the 3. And that starts with, or including their mentality in terms of how they approach the game. But if they're hitting the 3s the way they did last night, that's who they can be.
Yeah, and quickly check my memory. The 7-game loss was 2 years ago. Last year they lost in 6. But the point remains. Winman, finish it up with a thought on the Spurs. They had 11-game win streak. You were talking about how almost all of it was on the road. They sort of run out of gas yesterday. What do we say about them this morning?
Yeah, and they're a team that, if you're going to look for a weakness on this roster, it's their 3-point shooting too. When they won in Detroit last Monday, statement win for them. They were awesome, crushed from 3-point range. Yesterday, just 9 of 36. That's not going to get it done. And if the Spurs end up getting knocked out before the finals this year, I suspect it's going to be tied to 3-point shooting. They're a bottom 10 3-point shooting team. They're top 10 in pretty much everything else with Victor Wembanyama. The Knicks got them on a day where they had their good stuff going and the Spurs did not.
All right, I'm going to leave that there for the moment. We had lightning rod kind of comments from one of the NBA's biggest lightning rods that we will deal with a little bit later in the hour. But now back to the NFL. Time for some combine conclusions with Dan Orlovsky. And Dan, let's talk about QB2 in this draft. What is your conclusion?